Over the years, I've had the chance to work with hundreds of people with dementia and the family members caring for them on a one-to-one basis. I've worked with thousands of family members through my online programs. And more informally, I've had contact with way more caregivers just through my social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and here on YouTube. Throughout those years, with contact with all of those people, I've started to notice some themes and what really separates the caregivers who are feeling so burned out, hitting rock bottom, barely recognizing themselves in the mirror, and the caregivers who, despite being in hard situations, are somehow holding on, somehow even doing things they're enjoying. What's the difference between these two groups of people? It's not necessarily what you would think. Many people would think it has to do with, well, the caregiver doing better must have more money or more help or more time. But that's not true at all. While I wish every single one of you had so much more help, money, and time than you have right now, I wish that for every single caregiver. It is possible to start making positive change in your situation without those things. There are three main areas I want to share with you today. My hope is that you are going to master these three areas to the fullest extent possible. And make sure you don't miss the end of the video where I'm going to gift you a free download that can help you even further as you try to master these three areas. Okay, before I share these three areas, there's three things I want you to do right now. Take a deep breath, tell yourself you've got this, and hit the red subscribe button. It is totally free for you to do, and it helps tell YouTube to put my videos in front of other caregivers out there in the world right now searching for help but don't know where to go. Thank you. Okay, here we go. The first area is mindset. This is literally what you tell yourself in your mind. And if you are a human being, then chances are your mind is making things so much more difficult than they need to be. And you're probably not even aware of them because the things going through our mind, they're kind of automatic. They're like reflexes. They're outside of our awareness most of the day. But if we were to raise our awareness about what is going on in our head most of the time, it's pretty negative. Your thoughts are incredibly powerful in your life and in caregiving. So if you're having thoughts like, this is too hard, nothing works, this shouldn't be happening, this isn't fair, he's being manipulative. If those thoughts sound familiar to you, which by the way, those thoughts are very common for many caregivers, like many caregivers have these thoughts, but those thoughts on repeat in your mind, it's going to make things so much more difficult. It's going to make the caregiving experience harder. Your thinking, the thoughts you're having, it impacts the way you feel, and how you feel is going to determine how you show up, what actions you take. And those actions you take are going to impact your loved one with dementia. It all starts from your thinking. So if you're having thoughts like I just mentioned, you're probably going to be feeling frustrated, self-pity, hopeless, maybe even resentful. And how do you imagine somebody would show up in caregiving when they are feeling that way? Not very well. I mean, it would be really hard. Think about it. Why would any caregiver try to find another approach that works when they're feeling hopeless? If somebody's feeling hopeless, they're feeling like nothing's going to work. It wouldn't even make sense for them to be trying to find something that works. In fact, if you're feeling hopeless, your brain is going to go on the hunt to show you all the reasons and all the evidence why nothing has worked so far and nothing will ever work. This is just how the human brain is wired. And many people go throughout their days with these loops in their head, with these thoughts playing over and over and over again, as if those thoughts are 100% true and that there aren't other better thoughts that just are as equally as true. And we wonder why we feel so awful. Many people don't even realize the thoughts that they have been thinking that are keeping them down, like nothing will ever improve, this is too hard, I'm not doing good enough, this just isn't fair. Those thoughts, they're totally optional to be thinking. And people don't realize thinking, what you choose to think in any situation, that is within your control. For my Dementia Care Club members, you know this. We talk about this all the time. It's the formula for change. But for a lot of you, some people aren't even aware that this is what is happening in their mind all the time. Really briefly, for those of you who are not aware of the formula for change, a situation happens. It's already outside of your control. You can't do anything about it. You have a thought about that situation. That thought leads to your feeling. That feeling leads to your actions. that action impacts your loved one with dementia. That is always happening. So my question to you is, how would you rate the overall quality of your thoughts on a day-to-day basis? How do you think those thoughts are impacting yourself, how you feel, your caregiving? Let me know in the comments below. I bet you're not alone. So the caregivers who seem to be getting through this caregiving journey in the absolute best way they know how, they have raised the awareness of the thoughts going on in their mind. And when they notice those unproductive thoughts that keep them in a loop, that keep them down, they notice it. And then they intentionally start to change it to another thought that they can just as equally believe, but leads to better feelings, actions. That's that. It's like this mind discipline. It's being aware that the thoughts inside your mind are extremely important. That is the first thing that I see that is incredibly important for caregivers who want as much success as possible in caregiving. It is the mindset piece, which, by the way, is really great news, because if it was something outside of you, that's going to be near impossible, because as far as I know, we can't control the whole world around us and all the situations that are happening, but we can decide to control what we're choosing to think about certain situations. So that's actually good news. Okay, the second most important thing and theme that I've seen in talking to caregivers throughout the years is going to be the specific actions that they take. What are the actions to take when you're caring for somebody with dementia? The actions that work, the actions that don't make things worse. Have you ever tried to help your person with dementia, and by trying to help them, it seemed to make things worse? You've tried to calm them down. You maybe have tried to tell them nobody's breaking in the home. You maybe tried to tell them why they can't do something to try to keep them safe. And all the while, every single thing you're doing to try to help them out from the goodness of your heart seems to be making everything worse. It's because the way that we have been responding all our life to that person and to most of the humans in our life, they make sense to us. But when it comes to somebody with dementia, the brain is impacted, the brain has changed, and the things that make total sense to us don't make sense to the person with dementia. In fact, in their reality, they might see you as somebody who is getting in the way, treating them like a child, trying to stop them from doing what they want to do, and they don't understand that you are trying to help. So if we need to take the best actions possible, we have to understand, how do we take that action in a way that the person with dementia can accept, can receive? And in order to do that, we have to first understand how the disease impacts the brain. And then number two, learn to take the actions that would make sense based on those changes. The majority of people, no fault to their own, because there's not a lot of information out there that's spread easily in a way that they can easily learn and get the information. But most people are taking actions that make sense to them in their head, but it just leads to more frustration. It leads to more hopelessness. It leads to more pushback because it doesn't work and it's not making sense in the person with dementia's head. Generic tips and tricks are great, but they don't work for every situation. And many times they start to run out. That's because we're not dealing with the disease process that impacts everybody the same way. We're dealing with a human being, an individual person who has a disease, and we have to learn to take the specific actions that make sense for that person. When we don't understand how the disease is working in the person's brain and what the reality is of the person with dementia, then all of a sudden it can feel like you're trying and you're trying and you're trying and nothing is improving. It can run you into the ground, and eventually it will have you thinking and believing nothing will ever work and nothing will ever improve. And then, as I just explained from the mindset piece, as soon as you start thinking that and believing that, you start to feel hopeless, you start to give up, and then nothing actually does work. I'm curious, have you ever noticed that when you've tried to help the person with dementia, it seemed to set things off and it seemed to make the situation much worse? Let me know below. Say yes if that has ever happened to you. I guarantee you that is a common thing that's happened to many caregivers. Okay, and finally, the third thing that I think is extremely important to try to have as much success as possible in caregiving without running yourself into the ground is going to be preparation. Let's face it, you are not going to be able to prepare for every single future situation that caregiving is going to bring your way. But what you can start doing is you can start thinking about, how do you want to show up when stressful, unexpected situations happen? How do you want to talk to yourself during those moments? How do you want to support yourself in the moments when that stressful situation has ended and you're reflecting back on it? beating yourself up, it's not going to make it easier. And for your current struggles, your current obstacles and challenges you're facing, the ones that seem to be happening on a pretty regular basis, you can prepare right now, because chances are pretty good it's going to happen again. You can prepare right now for how you are going to respond in that moment. What might you say differently? What might be a different approach you take? What are you going to tell yourself in your head when that situation pops up? How can you think about those challenges in a way that's going to fuel a better feeling, which is going to fuel a better action? Doing the same thing over and over again and taking the same approach to a challenging obstacle or situation likely doesn't lead to much change. You're going to have to change in order to start seeing change happen. And it can literally start with you just taking a moment to think about how will you prepare the next time it happens. Perhaps even just being able to take a deep breath in the moment and remind yourself, you know what? I've gotten through this every single other time this has happened. I'm going to get through this again. Perhaps that alone can be enough to take the edge off and to show up in an entirely different way, which will have the ripple effect on your person with dementia. Now, obviously, there is so much more to know about these 3 different areas that I can ever explain in a short YouTube video. But what I want to point out is that this mindset, action, preparation, those are the 3. That is what I refer to as the map inside my care course. It's my signature program on how you can start changing your mindset, how you can start believing new things that are going to fuel better feelings and fuel better actions. How do you start taking actions that make sense for your person with dementia and don't totally neglect yourself in the process? How do you start preparing for all of the hardships that have already happened that you know are going to repeat, and actually start preparing for all the unexpected things that are going to come in the future as the disease declines? Okay, now which of the 3 areas do you think would have the biggest impact on your life if you were to focus and make some tweaks there? I think the majority of the population would agree caregiving is difficult. There are many hardships that come along with it. But what happens here, the actions we take and how we prepare, that can make it even worse, or it can actually set you up for success. My hope is that this sets you up for success and you totally transform your caregiving journey. Now, I have a free TV guide below. You can download it and watch the videos that apply most to your situation. Do you need more videos around mindset and coping with stress? Perhaps you need more videos on the specific actions to take with difficult dementia behaviors. Or perhaps you want to go straight to the planning piece. Inside that free TV guide, which you can download in the link in the description, you can watch 100 of my top videos and go straight to the ones that you need most right now. All right, I'm sending love to you all. Keep up the great work. Bye. Also, Nico gets a belly rub for every person who subscribes from this video. So if you haven't already, click the red subscribe button. It's totally free. And Nico says, thank you very much.